Well, it's that time of the week again where we get to talk about brand new VR games coming out this week, new games coming out next week, and of course some of that juicy VR gaming news. But before we dive into that, I want to thank each and every one of you that takes the time out of your day to support this channel by watching it, liking it, and all of that good stuff. Thank you so much. We are crazy close to 50,000 subscribers now, so if you wouldn't mind subscribing if you're new, I'd massively appreciate that. And of course, if you enjoy this content, then smash like. Other than that though, let's dive into new VR games this week. Kicking it all off, we have Ember Souls. Now, this is essentially the Prince of Persia of VR. Now, I'm pretty impressed actually by this game. I still stand by pretty much what I said last week, which is essentially this game is very good, but its combat kind of sucks. Mostly though, this game feels good. Like, the movement in this feels incredibly clean. It feels really satisfying to jump around stuff. The parkour feels very satisfying. The world levels and the design of the game, very cool. The only thing that feels like it's slightly lacking for me still is just that combat just feels slightly weak. But for this type of game, I feel like you can kind of forgive that, as it's pretty fast paced. So just know if you're going to go into this and you're going to buy it, well, it's not the cleanest experience and it's definitely not got the best combat, but it is a very unique experience in the sense that you do really get that sense of Prince of Persia, but in VR. Thrill of the Fight 2. Well, this has finally come out, but not really fully. It's kind of almost like an early access kind of feel to this, as you can now pay to be able to get in and do the multiplayer fights. There's no single player campaign just yet, I don't think. So yeah, it's pretty decent. I jumped in, I did a couple of rounds. It feels good. It looks pretty good, nothing amazing, but it looks pretty decent and it feels good. I mean, it's boxing, you can't really go too wrong with it, but this definitely seems to sort of stay in line essentially with the first game. I'm not seeing a massive need to upgrade to this if you're not in a hurry. Maybe once a single player campaign comes out as well, it will be sort of a bit more enticing. Next up, we have Wall Town Wonders, and this is the brand new mixed reality game that has just dropped. And honestly, this one, if you own a Quest 3 or Quest 3S, I really highly recommend that you pick this game up. It turns your room into this really unique experience where you essentially have like these tiny people living in your walls. They're kind of like borrowers, if you know that reference. Honestly, this one was just so much fun. I dove into this and I expected to spend like maybe 20 minutes to half an hour. I ended up burning through about an hour and a half. I do like my sim games, so for me this really does sort of fulfill that sort of need. But on top of that, it's just really cool to see all of this stuff, sort of like you're literally building this whole village but inside of your walls, which just looks really cool. On top of that, you get some really fun moments of mechanics, like where you actually can like fly a plane around your room, you can assist them to get from one side to the other. You got all these other key moments that just kind of made this a pretty damn dope experience. So if you're looking for something in mixed reality, definitely try this one. It's really sort of cutesy and chill, but worth it. VR gaming news. Well, this is where things always get spiciest in my opinion, the VR gaming news, and this week is going to be no letdown. To kick off the VR gaming news this week though, we are going to be talking about the fact that Green Hell VR is getting a co-op mode, and it's not even that long a wait until we get our hands on this. It's going to be coming out on December 16th to Quest and PSVR 2, and well, I think this is kind of the thing that this game has always needed. Well, I mean, co-op mode was always pretty fire when it came to the original flat game of this, and now going into the jungle with a friend, I think it's going to just change us up from something that's very torturous to something that's still torturous but just really fun to be in with a friend. I think it can change up this entire dynamic of this game, and if you're looking for that co-op adventure, this is going to be very fulfilling, as this is a very complete game. It has a lot going on in it. It's just incredibly treacherous to get in there and, you know, not die within 5 minutes. Going through that with a friend though is going to really enhance this game, so I'm pretty excited about this. I'm looking forward to checking it out, and I think this is going to be one of those really dope moments for this game where it might actually elevate it to being like a must-have type of experience for the co-op. Next up, we have a new game coming out, which is Anomaly, and this is essentially an extraction shooter that's going to be making its way to VR. Now, this comes from the people that made Swarm and Swarm 2, so I'm pretty interested by this. From the looks of things, it's pretty beta-y at the moment, which is fine. I guess they're trying to build out the game before they, you know, properly polish it out, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's pretty freaking dope actually, the way that it looks so far. I'm liking the fact that you can zip line around, you've got gadgets, you've got all the fun stuff. It's kind of like Breaches, but it feels like maybe slightly bigger, just not quite as polished. So yeah, I don't know, if you're interested in this, keep an eye out for it. Definitely interesting. Next up, we got an announcement date for Pirates VR Jolly Roger. I'm pretty sure that's the name of this thing. Long ass title. This is actually a game that's been announced and on the cards for like maybe 6 years at this point, but it's finally going to be making its way out to PC VR and PSVR 2. Now I will say with a caveat, I actually played this in the Steam Next Fest demo a while back and it really underwhelmed me. Some things look really nice about this game, so I would say don't be fooled by its sort of like nice polished look, because it's also got some really odd choices in this game. Like, I don't know, I was expecting more of a pirate Sea of Thieves, like I'm stuck on an island type thing, and instead of that it kind of has this sort of bit more sort of bizarreness to it, and weird and wonderful world that you're going into. Next up, Swordsman VR is getting a brand new update. They have revamped Claws, which is going to be a new boss fight essentially. Not only that, but this whole arena that the Claws fight takes place in is also been revamped into a really cool looking level, and a brand new boss sword that's going to come with the result of beating this boss. Not only that, there's also some other cool flying creatures like the Beholders that are going to be ice blasting the entire time. It's been said that it's one of the toughest fights in VR right now, and well, I can contest after trying it, it definitively is one of the toughest things in VR. So definitely one to check out when this update drops. Most of you probably already own this game in your library, so it's a good opportunity to dive back in and experience some sort of free content. And of course, if you don't already own Swordsman, well then it's definitely time to pick it up. It's basically realistic sword fighting in VR with really cool campaign bosses and a ton of awesome weapons. There's so much to this game, definitely one to check out. And last but not least in this section of the video, Hitman World of Assassination. The next attempt at making this a good VR game. Well, I mean, honestly, this one at least has me mildly hopeful, but I'm very much prepared to be let down, as I have been by every other version of Hitman in VR. Nonetheless, the PSVR 2 version has been delayed until March 2025. Could this mean that they're actually going to refine and make this game better? I hope so, but we also saw a pretty big delay for the Hitman game that came out on Quest. So we all know how that turned out. Fingers crossed though, this is actually going to be that moment when Hitman becomes good in VR. God dang it, I really hope so. I've wanted this game just to be a solid experience for so many years at this point. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't pre-order it, let's put it that way. Coming up next week. Well, we've got a bit of a quieter week next week, and we're going to kick it off with Trombone Champ Unflattened. This is Flat2VR's first title coming out, and they have built this from being a flat game into a fully VR game, and I mean a full VR game. Now, if your kind of bag is to get in and play a trombone, well then this one is going to be for you. Definitely a bit of a meme game, but nonetheless, they've done an incredible job of turning this in, you know, from being a flat game into a VR game. But one thing I will say is I played this myself when I was at Gamescom earlier this year, and yeah, it was a friggin' laugh to play it. It was one of those ones where I was just like, do I really care about this? But then after I played it, I was like, yeah, I can kind of see it now. It's kind of fun. I'm not sure that this is definitely my style of game, but I can see why a ton of people are going to really enjoy this one. And not only that, it's just a very well-made game. And last but not least, we have Boxing Underdog. This is supposedly going to be coming out next week, although I haven't seen a busting amount of marketing, but I did see this date floating around, so I thought I'd announce it to you guys. Just know that this date might change. Nonetheless, though, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on this, because personally, this is the boxing game that I'm actually really looking forward to. It's kind of got a bit more bare knuckle to it. It looks a little bit more intense, and I don't know, I think this one sort of appeals to my way that I want to fight better than something maybe like Thrill of the Fight 2. So I'm excited for this one. I'm optimistic to see whether it's any good or not is another thing. They have had a lot of time developing this, so fingers crossed that equals a really cool game. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. Are you a underdog boxing kind of boxer, or are you someone who's more into sort of Thrill of the Fight kind of sort of more soft boxing? You know, maybe you get a little bruise rather than a bust open head. Anyway, guys, that is pretty much going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I massively appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join me to find out some of the VR news about games. And of course, if you want to learn more about VR gaming, then this is the channel for you, whether it be reviews, whether it be sort of gaming news or whatever else. It's pretty much your one-stop shop for all things VR. If you enjoyed this, smash like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out, have a good weekend, bye.